Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ruth Hamilton with Annie's Project Education for Farm Women. It's November 18th, 2016, and it's our quarterly teleconference meeting of the Annie's Project coordinators and facilitators. So to get things started off with here, we're going to introduce you to Willie Hewitt, who is on the Facilitator Training Committee. And Willie, I'll let you go ahead and handle introductions.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Thank you, and welcome to the Facilitators Conference. It's always good to have a chat like this and to get insight from what's going on around the country. So let's start with just an introduction to see who's on the line and where you are from this morning. So I know Ruth is on, and Willie's on. And could you just tell me who else is on and maybe where you are from?
Christine Bellis. I'm in Lewiston, Illinois, and I work for the University of Illinois Extension for our unit.
Okay. Hi, welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
And this is Chris Tousell from Central New York State, and I'm the program director with the New York State Agricultural Mediation Program.
Okay. Welcome, Chris. Thank you.
Well, okay, now that we have our
others on the line?
Our attendants, that's who we have on the line right now. We will go ahead and extend a congratulations to our own Willie here on his retirement from North Dakota State University. Willie, how long have you worked there?
Well, I've worked here for 26 years, and I worked in Montana, so my total extension time was 41 and a half years.
Well, that's remarkable, and we're very pleased to announce that while he may be leaving Extension, he is staying with Annie's Project on the board, so we're real pleased that he's going to continue his work with Annie's Project. Also, congratulations to Adele Hardy and Robin Salverson from South Dakota. They are our 2016 recipients of the Bob Well Women in Agriculture and Ag Educator Memorial Award. And just as a means of who Bob Wells was, Bob Wells worked for the university, or he worked for Iowa State University, and he was a major contributor to the Annie's Project program from the very foundations of it, and is responsible for most of the growth that has taken place with the program. And Bob passed here in, I think it was 2013. And so since his passing, we have honored his work for women in agriculture by giving these awards for these two fine gals who have done some yeoman's work with educating farm women, farm and ranch women. South Dakota, you have both there. Okay, so with that, let me announce a couple of upcoming trainings that we've got scheduled for Annie's Project, where we're going to be working with the facilitators. Willie Hewitt is going to be doing a training in Billings, Montana on December 6th through the 8th. Idaho, we've got them on schedule pending a grant submission that they put in for. Title of their grant is Women Farm Operators on the Rise in the U.S. and Idaho, Research and Extension to Support Farm Women. So we're hopeful that they will be funded for that. Willie, I'm going to call on you at this point to talk about some after training in your state's idea. We just finished with training in North Dakota. Were we there in July, Willie?
August. We were here in August.
August. Okay.
Yeah. Well, what we've done in North Dakota, that was really well. We had a great training session. Ruth was here. We had 30 participants go through the training. A lot of those there had never been involved in Annie's Project before, so it was quite new to them. But we had a great session, and about an 8-hour training event. Following that, what we have done in North Dakota in the past here, beyond that, we've had kind of two different stages of training. One was just kind of the broad overview, getting people on to say who's going to give them the backdrop and so forth, to get them kind of the global picture of Annie's Project. Then we typically have had a second training session, what we call to fine-tune that. In that session, we go over a lot more of the details, more specific to North Dakota. That might be the timing, the materials being used, identifying speakers, all those things that you have to do at the local level here. That's been very helpful because for people who have conducted Annie's projects before, it's a little bit redundant, but for those who have, but it just addresses a lot of the concerns and questions and issues that they have. So that second training event is very helpful for us. We had two of those in the week or two ago. We had one in the western part of the state, one over here in the central eastern part of the state. And so all of the participants, of the 30 that went through the training event last summer, then they attended one of those events. So that's been very helpful, I think, to get the facilitators more prepared to offer their courses. This year we're offering Annie's Project a little bit different than in North Dakota. In previous years we've done a lot of this through what we call the IBAN or the ITV format. This year we're not doing that. We're doing more, everything's going to be face-to-face. And so it's going to be a little bit more work on the facilitators to prepare for all that. That was a lot of the focus of the second part of the training session, I think, which has been very helpful. And a lot of that time also at the end was left for questions and answers with that, which I think we helped address a lot of the individual concerns or questions that people have. So that's been a very helpful part of our preparing to conduct Annie's projects here in the winter months ahead.
So Christine, Christine, you were at the Illinois training, correct, in Springfield?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so this might be an idea that we pick up here in this state is, just beyond the training, just do a little bit more with actually the facilitators on a more question and answer type basis.
Okay, it sounds very good.
So, okay, Willie, is that conclude the comments, or have you got some others?
That's basically all I think. But I just will say that I think that's been very helpful for us in the past. It's just another level of not only answering the question, but building up the confidence level that they have to present this as well. And I think when they go into the program, they're a lot more. They feel better prepared. They have a lot more confidence, and they feel like they're better prepared to do a good job of the facilitation and organization and facilitation of the Annie's project. So it's been worthwhile our time to do that. So
okay, well,
I would strongly encourage that for any state to do that.
Okay, thank you for that. I think it's an excellent idea, and other states can maybe follow up with that. I will also report that Jason Johnson, member of our board, and he's from Texas, attended a program in Wyoming on October 25th that was hosted by State Coordinator Cole Emke. And they had a very good discussion about Annie's project there, and that's going to lead us into our next topic here. And that is Beyond the Basics for Annie's project. It's where we basically left off with our last quarterly meeting. And so the discussion we're going to talk about is what qualifies for a second level program. We all seem to have a handle, or we're getting a handle on what that basic level of Annie's project is. But when you have those follow-up programs, we here at Annie's Project Education for Farm Women are interested in helping either develop that or do something that would improve the quality of the programming, give that same Annie's Project experience. So here's our definition of what a second level program is. It's a single topic, more depth, shorter time period. It's still dynamic, still interactive, it's still research-based, and it's basically your follow-up to an Annie's Project request for more information. We had no prerequisites that you have to have attended an Annie's Project, but is there a curriculum that goes with it? So I'm going to give you my historical perspective on this. When I started Annie's Project in 2003, it became very evident that women wanted to continue on with specific topics with more subject matter, greater in depth. So some of the programs that I conducted were Women Marketing Grain, Keeping Farm Financial Records, and we did it with QuickBooks, Quicken, and PC Mars. And I did a follow-up program, Farmland Leasing and Women Landowners. Now, all of these came out of a of an Annie's project, and they just wanted more information, more specific. So I put it together. Again, no curriculum with that, but we ended up calling those a second level program, inviting other women to come. So someone who wasn't interested in the full Annie's project would come to the farmland leasing program, hear the other women talk about Annie's project, and then we would offer Annie's project again, and it just became a recruiting ground for us. But the question becomes, what is going to qualify for a second level program? And that's what we really would like to start doing with the facilitators and state coordinators, is developing that list of second level programming that you have put together. And the ones that we have on our books right now, Managing for Today and Tomorrow, this is a beginning farmers rancher development program. Effort that was led by Iowa State University and Annie's Project. Then we have Women Managing Cattle, and I believe, Willie, correct me, is that a program out of South Dakota, or did that come out of Iowa?
I think it is, Ruth. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's out of South Dakota.
Okay, and then we have Women Marketing Grain. That one, while I offered it, Iowa State developed a curriculum for it, I believe. A program called Beyond the Basics, which is a step up from just basic learning of financial statements and keeping farm records. And what all of these programs here have in common is that A, there is a curriculum, B, there's a set of resources, and C, there's an evaluation that goes behind these things. Now, if you don't have a curriculum and you're putting a program on, do we call it a second level Annie's project? So I'm going to open it up for a little bit of discussion here. If Christine, you have any perspective on second level programs, I would be interested in hearing that. Or Willie, some of your programs that you did were also, we called them second level. But start building a list here for me. Willie, what have you got up there in North Dakota that maybe?
Well, we do. We've done two things, Ruth, come to mind to me. At the end of our basic Annie's course, we typically had also an opportunity for women to come back and take a little bit more in-depth on marketing or the topics of their natures. We've done some of that, just kind of a quick add-on to the basic Annie's course. That's some of that. Some of our sites here have followed up, and they've started a kind of a women marketing club that has occurred, and that's a little bit not real widespread, but in some of the locations they have done that in conjunction with an adult farm management instructor or somebody that has kind of continued that on. So there's been some of that has happened as well in some of the communities here. We moved into we're doing more work on farm succession planning. That really is not we've done more of that we've not done as much of that in the single gender. That's been probably more of a family setting again. And that was kind of, we picked up on that maybe because some of the requests that we heard in Annie's project. So that we've not done a lot of work in the single gender audience in that topic with the farm succession. That's been more of a both gender education program. So what we have done primarily has been in the kind of an add-on to what we were doing in the Annie's project originally, and that most of that came down into the marketing, primarily grain, but some livestock as well.
Okay, thank you, Willie. Christine, has anything happened in your experience with the Annie's project?
One of the things that we had talked about after doing Annie's project last winter, one of the gentlemen that came to speak with us from NRCS, he had said, I would love to just take you ladies, put you on a bus and take you around to different projects that we have going on. And out of that, this spring, we're going to be doing a tour of a farm over in our southern part of Fulton County, very rural, and invited by this gentleman and his wife to come and visit their farm and to view the different aspects of these projects that they've used on their farm. I think one of the big questions was from our participants is, why would you want to put in a wetlands? And so from that, it kind of grew, let's go and look at some of these projects. So we're planning on something like that this coming spring.
I love that idea. That's hands-on.
Right, and it I guess it doesn't have to be just for our previous participants, but we're really want to invite them and welcome them first, because they had showed so much interest.
No, excellent idea. So, Chris, I don't believe you've ever put on an Annie's project, or have you been a part of one?
Well, I've been part of them. I started by participating in one locally, and then because the agricultural mediation program works through community dispute centers in New York State, we were able to work with Bonnie Collins and David Cox a couple of years ago to put local facilitators and mediators and staff into all of the Annie's project programs that were meeting in that particular day simultaneously. They were using more of the television transmission systems at that point, and I offered, well, would you like us to do something with that transmission for the whole audience, because they had several groups around the state basically working at the same time frames. And I said, or I can get local people to come in and talk, as you mentioned before, face-to-face with the group, work with them, talk about communication, listening, where that takes us sometimes in our farm businesses and our farm families. And so I've been connected to New York Annie's Project through this subject area, if you will. And I've also gone back a couple of times to sit in on when different local areas are offering their programs, MTT and another couple beginning Annie's projects. So I've had a different role. I haven't been the lead in the sense of facilitating or organizing a local community, but I've stayed connected with the whole project. And there's a Cornell Cooperative Extension educator in Western New York who had a project going this past year, she was telling me about, a grant program geared to, and it was through the Great Lakes consortium, if you will. I don't know the best name for that, but in her area in Western New York, there's a large river valley that feeds into the Great Lakes. I think it's Lake Erie, but I'm not sure. Lake Ontario. They're close there. And she had a whole program going from her experience in Annie's, although it wasn't directly tied to the Annie's Project, to bring in women who were farm owners and landlords to talk with them about conservation, and again, similar to what Christina's talking about, helping them become more familiar with the programs through NRCS and soil and water conservation. She had some fantastic statistic, and I just can't remember it off the top of my head, about the percentage of women in that area who were owners of the farmland. Perhaps they'd inherited it, perhaps they were still an active part of the family, leasing it to other producers. And the need for these women to understand the programs that were available and the benefits it offer to the land and to the production, so that the women who are the landowners could be encouraging their leasing partners to consider and to recognize and to use those programs.
Excellent.
So I'm fascinated not just by the original fundamental vision of Annie's Project, but the way that different folks, depending on what their communities are asking for, have been able to use that as a very solid foundation, a very solid base, and then address local interest or needs. New York is really diverse as far as agriculture. There would be hardly anybody in my part of the state that would have an interest or a connection to marketing grain and or cattle or pork at this point. Very, very few. It would be few and far between. But in the central and western part of New York State, that's a growing interest. Some of those those farms are all about growing the grain and the row crops and marketing. Totally different kind of interest or need. So to me, that's tremendous value in the whole vision of Annie's project.
Okay, Jason Johnson, I see you have joined us. Are you mic'd up? Okay, well, I'll give him a second to. There he is.
No, yes, I'm mic'd up.
So
I think when you talk about some of those second level classes, one of the classes that I had, and they at the end of the course they loaded up very similar to what Christine was talking about. They loaded in a van and they went to Dallas to the farmers market and basically spent the day visiting with the vendors that were there, talking to them about their production techniques and their marketing techniques, and basically trying to gather as much information as they could. So it was more of a field trip type of an experience that was what I would consider to be the follow-up, or not necessarily a second-level class, but certainly a second-level, more in-depth learning experience that directly followed behind the Annie's Project class.
Okay, so I'm kind of picking up here on something like working with NRCS possibly at the higher levels to maybe look to see what's available for a partnership there. And Jason, I would like for you to bring up Wyoming's idea about sharing out reporting agendas and posting them to our Annie's Project webpage.
Okay, one of the things when I visited with Wyoming a couple of weeks ago that they were inquisitive about was, within the Annie's Project framework, we have a tremendous amount of flexibility to address each of those 5 risk management areas. And what they suggested might be useful would be for coordinators and facilitators, as they reported their class activities and agendas back to Claudette, was to maybe also include in there the agenda of the program, the topics that were covered, and who the resource speakers were, because they would like to be able to look at kind of a cafeteria plan from other educators across the country. Of course, a lot of those specific topics would be geographically specific, but a lot of the topics would pretty much be universal, and they might be able to see something that goes, oh yeah, that would be an excellent maybe replacement for a slot or a speaker that might have been evaluated, poorly in the past. They were just they were requesting that we put together kind of a database of topic, subject matter, and speaker resources that others had used, just to help people tailor individual programs going forward, and learn what worked in other areas and maybe learn what didn't work in other areas. But that was their suggestion. I thought that was a very good one.
And what I've got up on the screen right now is the Annie's Project webpage. And what Jason and I had kicked around, and we'll take it to the marketing committee that we have that works on this kind of stuff, that we could put this kind of thing on the facilitator support page, or we could even put it up here on the front page of Annie's Project. So, Chris, you had that experience that you could just on a one-page report what you did, send it to Claudette, and then she would post it to our webpage, either on the facilitator or on the front page here. And that would just give us another connecting point here that sharing it out could be accomplished pretty easy that way. Christine, your idea of the conservation tour, send that, by the way, to Claudette so she can post it to the web page. She'll put it under the Illinois classes and let her know that that event is coming up.
Okay, I can do that.
If I might share something, I think that's a great idea. I wonder if we should also make sure that there's a contact information, or that the individual who's posting that is willing to address questions or be the kind of a contact person for anyone inquiring about that.
That
I think that would be good for there to be an identification of the facilitator who oversaw the particular class where that session was offered. That would be very useful.
Yeah.
So, okay, and I see, Maggie, you have joined us. You're in Unit 26, is that correct? In Illinois here? Oh, Maggie's getting her microphone turned on here. Okay. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and move on with the discussion about this. Let's see if I can get back to where we were here. Okay, so that worked out pretty good. So, okay, we'll continue this discussion. I know Jason and Willie, the board, has got to make some decisions about this, formalizing what qualifies for a second level program, whether it has a curriculum or whether it has something like what Chris and Christine are doing here, with a little bit more informal approach, but yet it has been inspired by an Annie's project. And that is going to be something that I'm going to formally submit to the board for their consideration. Is, all right, we've got Annie's project basic level. There's a certain set of criteria that you have to do to make that an Annie's project. We have second level program, managing for today and tomorrow, with curriculum, resources, all that good stuff. The third thing I'm going to put on here is the idea of a sticker. And I call it that because I don't know what else to call it at this time, but it's going to be a sticker that says inspired by Annie's project. So maybe, Christine, when you're loading them up on the bus, you're going to have other people there that didn't do an Annie's project, but they're going to see that sticker that says inspired by Annie's project. And I'm still formulating how all this would come together, but what is the idea of being able to identify a program happening because of Annie's project, but it doesn't necessarily have to be claimed by Annie's project? Give me some feedback on that.
Ruth, as you were talking, I was thinking about a couple of things I failed to mention in North Dakota. Is that a couple of the participants who attended Annie's project went back, and one lady was an NRCS staff member, so she was very instrumental in starting what they call a women's night out in the community not that far from here. So that's been an annual event since then. So I can clearly know that program was inspired by Annie's project, but it wasn't. It's one night event. It's maybe get a one speaker, then there's some fun, there's some other things that go on with that. But the initial inspiration for that event came from her role in Annie's project. So they don't do, I believe one year I didn't speak at that. They did have an evaluation, but I'm not sure if they followed through every year with that. But that was an event that, as I'm thinking about it, was inspired by her experience with Annie's project. And so another thing that has come to mind to me, they started kind of in the western part of the state, a women's night out, or a women's Saturday. It's kind of a Saturday program, just one day, and it's kind of, they pick up one or two speakers, and that's women as well. But that also was kind of inspired by Annie's project. A question I have with that then, as we go down there, then what do we need to think through about how that can be connected, or the use of logos, or the things that, what would we be expecting then to have the connection, so to speak, between where that idea came from and what resource that they are using, or how that's evaluated. Would the board have any interest in trying to monitor that, to govern that, or would it just be a kind of a notation on the program that this was inspired by Annie's project from the past?
All great questions, Willie. You guys put that in your notebook there, Jason and Willie, and we're going to have to bring some structure to that. But I think if you can identify inspired by Annie's project, that really is going to start showing how this program bleeds out into the community in other ways, that it's just not a one-shot program, but that it has all these tentacles and tails to it that continue the program on. Okay, for the sake of time here, I know we're getting kind of tight. I'm going to ask a question about the declining revenues that we are experiencing in agriculture. And I just recently pushed the button on a program with the North Central Risk Management Education Center for a curriculum to work with women and help them with tools to get them through declining revenue periods. So, Willie, what do you got going in South Dakota? Jason in Texas? Gals from Illinois? Give me a feel for what's going on out there.
I'll start, Ruth. I think we addressed that somewhat in the Annie's project that are being scheduled here. I think what we did see was that we would spend more time basically on the financial side of risk than we have before. That means some of the basics or some of the activities that we would be going through would be probably more than what we have done in the past. So at this point in time, that's one thing that's going on through Annie's project, in that there'll just be more time on the financial risk. Another thing that's happening in North Dakota is that some of our staff, some are involved in Annie's project, some are not. They're taking some training down in Omaha this summer, this winter, and they're coming back and they're trying to do more programming on working more on a one-on-one with farmers or small groups on the financial side, getting assessments, operation. That is not a single gender effort. That's more of a family programming again, but that's one thing North Dakota is gearing up to do this coming year. But in terms of the Annie's project, our focus so far has been simply trying to spend more time on the financial side of our programming on the Annie's Basics course.
Okay. Jason, what's going on in Texas there? You guys still wealthy?
No, it's the same thing. I think seeing the commodity prices and anticipating what impacts that are likely to have, we as an ag economics program unit spent quite a bit of time talking about pulling some of the old financial crisis stuff out of mothballs, which basically means increased scrutiny on financials, projections, working with your ag lender and things very similar to what Willie was describing. We have some programs that deal with individual farm families, and a lot of those efforts will be incorporated there. But as far as it relates to the Annie's project curriculum, I think that we definitely will end up spending an additional amount of time on those ag lending and financial scrutiny type topics.
Okay, well, I'm just going to share out a story because I feel this passionate about the topic. Beginning of this month, I had an ambulance rip by my place here, and it turned out to be one of our neighboring farmers who had committed suicide. He had financial difficulties. Those of us who've been around here understood he had financial difficulties. But the perception that he carried with, the greater circle of people who he had done business with was everything was fine. He was wealthy. He loved cattle. That was kind of what he was good at. But, clearly if you were his neighbor, you could see some of the other problems he was having. And apparently, he had other problems too. I think pretty sure depression was amongst them. But this guy committed suicide and put his family through some terrible times here in the last few weeks now. And I really am become passionate about, we've got to get programs out there to let people like my neighbor know you don't have to kill yourself over this. And I put that in my application for the program, the North Central Risk Management Education Center. I put that story in there because I feel there's an urgency that in this downturn that there may be a few more suicides due to financial failure. So what we can do, to the extent that we can get a program out there that helps women who tend to be the ones who reach out for the help, and get that out there where it's friendly, not judgmental, and get some help in some people's hands. I really am passionate about that happening in this next round of programming. So I'll stop talking at this point and let me just wind up this part of the conference, and then I'll take your questions and comments. We did have a list. We've got a list of people that we are extending to be trainers for Annie's project, to let you know that we are working on that program, looking at a Train the Trainers meeting, working with Nationwide Financial out of Columbus, Ohio. They have a training facility that they are willing to let us use, and the dates that we're looking at right now are March 28th and 29th, 2017. So for those of you who are on that trainers list, this might be a calendar date that you want to hold for us. And if you are interested in becoming a trainer for us, please let me know, or Carisha Devlin, she is the one who's been taking the names for us, and we'll be sure to get your name on the list for consideration to be a trainer for us. Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and take your questions or comments. Maggie, we haven't heard anything from you. Did you want to have something to say to us here? Okay, well, with that then, Willie or Jason, is there anything else that you think we need to bring before the group right now? I will remind everybody that this is being recorded, and I will post it to the YouTube with a link, and we'll send it out to anybody so you can come back and get the information you think you might have missed.
Just a comment I have, Ruth, on that. I think you're dealing with financial crisis. I think is so key. I think what we have experienced here, that it's so violent, but yet so challenging to do from the standpoint of the feelings that help people that need the help the most. Sometimes they're very difficult to reach out to. They don't want to be identified with that. So I think this situation is quite a bit different than the 1980s. I think 1980s there was probably more of a universal crisis. I think right now what we see in our part of the world was that a lot of the challenges that have gone on are a lot of the situations that several of the farmers are in or facing, that is large part because of maybe their decisions that they've made in these last very high income years. So those that have managed their resources and their extra income more prudently in the last 7-8 years are doing better. It's those that really went out and extended themselves, in land, machinery, all those things that are really probably more in a financial situation right now. But having said that, I think that I really agree that it's the women in those operations that are probably most likely inclined to reach out or to make some decisions that could accept help or some information that could guide them through there.
I know, Willie, you were around in the 80s when all this was going on. I was. Jason, I think you kind of had your ear tuned to it. So we've got lots of experience, but we've just got to figure out a way to get it out there. And you're right, Willie, these guys do not ask for help.
Yeah, right. That's what we've seen here. Yeah, a lot of denial that it goes on with that. Yeah.
You bet.
But I I absolutely agree that I think probably more the women in the audience women in the operation are more inclined to reach out and to try to address this in a positive way than a lot of their male counterparts would be.
And especially in a small group setting, I think that is very therapeutical for them, and that's something that we've managed to preserve with Annie's project. And I really think going into what we see coming ahead of us here, I think that is one of the strengths that we bring to this program. Compassion and that small group support is so vital to this stuff. So,
Yeah.
all right, any questions or other comments that we need to address at this time?
This is Chris, and I don't have a comment particularly to the specific parts of the agenda today, but I do want to thank you, Ruth, for continuing to hold these conferences and meetings. I think that another layer of the value of this is us being able to share with people in other states that fundamentally all the people who are producing in agriculture have some of these pieces of common struggle, and even though we may have slightly different commodities or approaches in our different areas, and just I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Very kind words. Appreciate that. All right. Anything else for the good of the group here then? If not, I will thank everyone for attending. As I said, this is recorded. My name is Ruth Hamilton. I'm the president of Annie's Project Education for Farm Women. And this recording is going to go up onto YouTube. So everyone have a great rest of your day. Bye.